All right, thank you. Victoria, are you in Key West?
No, I'm actually back as of last night, but my computer was so full of emails it was not taking any more, so I had to go on my phone. And I'm not sure really how to put my face on there.
Okay, well, I looked at your escapades there. You looks like you had a fantastic time.
Thank you. I did. I needed it.
Okay. All right, so we've called the meeting to order and we are recording. I would welcome those of you who are here. And I'd like to call the roll. We've got Victoria Curtis is here. Stephanie Dyer is absent and excused, I believe. Joanne, you're here.
Here.
Jin Wei, I see you here. And we have not seen from Hari yet. I expected him to be here. So thank you for being here. And then we've got one guest. We've got Fran, our historian, who's here tonight with us. So do we have minutes, Edgar, to approve or not?
No minutes. I'm gonna work on the minutes over the holiday break, and I would have all those as soon as they are done.
Okay, thank you. So why don't you give us the treasurer's report?
So we have used $0 this year. We have $3,000 in the treasury, and I think we should think about how we can use those next year. You know, maybe I can pull up the policies. I have them right here, and how we can use the treasury, the money from the treasury. Yeah, I think we should use our resources because from my understanding, it doesn't roll over. So we have that $3,000 every year. And there's a ton of ways that we can use it. I know I usually get backed up with minutes because I'm also doing the minutes for El Sobrane. So I know that the North Richmond MAC uses some of that money to pay for someone to do the minutes. So that's an option. Yeah, so I can send out an email to the MAC members with the policies for the MAC, and I'll highlight the section that says what you can use and what you cannot use the treasury. For.
Did we, I had a question and I kind of let it go, but did we answer whether the insurance that we had to buy for the East Richmond Heights Art and Craft Festival could be covered by some of that money? It was, I think, 300 or something.
Let me check. I think
I can talk to you offline if, I mean, waste of time, but you know, I paid that out of my pocket. So
yeah, let's see. I can probably give you an answer right now. Let's see, 3,000 funding was not available for this purpose allocation funding to be identified for those periods. Funding will be restricted to the following. Here it goes. So funding will be restricted to the following: clerical support, telephone expenses, post office box expenses, postage, print and mailing services, community meeting expenses. Funding may not be expended on other items not directly related to the functions and activities specified in the board approved annual work plan. Was that event in the board approved annual work plan, John?
No. Festival we've had for several years, and COVID kept us from doing it the year before. And then we scrambled to get it together, and it was, as you saw, it was a great festival. We had a lot of people, but you know, we couldn't hold that until I got approval from sheriff, fire, and highway. I paid for it out of my pocket. So
and what was it?
I think it was a little over $300.
Okay. I'll see, because I think that the event is, let me check the annual plan for this year that we're submitting at the end of the year. The annual report, I mean, it's the annual work plan.
Okay.
Because it's mentioned in the annual report of one of the activities that we did in the this year. So let me check if that counts for reimbursement.
Okay. Well, and the only caveat I would say is it was demanded by Contra Costa County.
Do you have receipts?
You will not hold this festival unless you buy insurance.
Right.
Told me who to go to, and we got everything covered as required by the county. So
And
I can do that if you like.
do you have a receipt or like some kind of that shows
Yeah.
how much you paid?
I
Okay.
have all of that, including the guy who signed it. He signed it off several years now, but he was over there taking care of the permits, and he was very helpful. That's how
Okay.
I was able to get it done. So,
All right. Well, I'll put a pin on that, and we'll circle back and we'll see if we can get you reimbursed.
okay, because I didn't dream it up. They said you will not have that festival unless you buy the insurance that we require.
Mhm.
And I kept all of that. I can send it to you.
Okay.
I won't harp on it anymore now. Okay. All right. Is that it on the treasurer's report?
That's it.
Okay. Let's go to our presentations. Lieutenant Rodriguez, welcome back. And I'd like to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys having me. I'll start off with the reports for the month of November. So select crime trends for the month of September, we had 4, October we had 3, and then November we had 2. Those crimes primarily are property crimes. I think the only time we had crime against person was in October, there was 1. Everything else, as you had mentioned earlier, was primarily thefts of vehicle parts, i.e. catalytic converters, or vandalisms, and or a petty theft. So we are trending downwards, but still something to keep an eye on. I know there's some other issues and that I've been talking with some of the community members up there about are related more to people kind of loitering in the area, coming in and hanging out and or leaving their trash behind. And then also some concerns with the way people are driving, speeding, and then other matters related to the vehicles such as loud exhaust, things of that nature. For the calls for service for the month of November, there were 65 calls for service. Of those calls for service, we generated 11 reports. 4 of those reports being the thefts of the vehicle parts, so specifically the catalytic converters. That's something that continues to be a problem. One of the things we're seeing folks combating both individually is to try and put some sort of barrier to make it harder. If they really want to get to it, they can, but the harder it is for them, the more inconvenience it is. They just move on to the next vehicle. But I know the state is also pursuing legislation that will essentially require that there be identification numbers, like a serial number or something to that effect. That's on all these catalytic converters, just due to the value that they hold, and it's primarily the materials inside. So there are large fines for recycle depots if they get caught with these things and they can't account for where they're actually coming from. There's a pretty big penalty up into losing their license and their ability to function. So that's something that both our detectives as well as the other agencies, specifically CHP, their task force, they've been working. So those are some of the primary things that are going on. As far as base station goes, we're seeing an increase in staffing. So in July, we increased some of the staffing on 2 of the shifts out here. So our deputies on some of the shifts went from having 4 beat assignments to 7. So we saw an increase of 3 additional deputies. We have our shift change upcoming in January. We're going to see that again out of the 5 shifts that we have. 4 of the shifts will now be staffed with 7 beats. And what that does is it reduces our response times. It allows deputies to remain in their geographical area of responsibility a lot longer. So as you can imagine, if we had 4 deputies for the west end of the county, certain calls for service, if they're deemed to be of a threat or enough risk both to the public and to the officers, it would require a 2 deputy response. So things such as domestic violence calls, shots fired calls, things of that nature, it's going to require 2 deputies. So when there's only 4, you can imagine how quickly they get pulled out of an area of responsibility. So now with having 7, it allows the deputies to stay in their areas a lot longer and better coverage. And the hope is that we'll see reduced response times, and then also the deterrence that comes with the deputies being in the area as well. So The other thing we now have is the county approved Met deputies, which is a deputy assigned to work with a clinician. And the goal is to address mental health. So if we get calls for service where we're contacting folks that have been diagnosed with mental health, or if we see that there's a need for them to get some mental health assistance, the deputies are now working with county staff from mental health to be able to go back and do follow-up. And the hope is that in doing that follow-up, we reduce the need for us to respond back out for future calls for service. So
I have a
especially,
question. I have a question, Mark.
yes, ma'am.
One, Edgar Hari's trying to get in. He just needs you to let him in. He's about 5 minutes ago. He requested by email. And Mark, I have a question. One, I heard recently that if you call 988, is that a mental health hotline, kind of like 911?
That I'm not familiar with. I know there is some works both through the county and what we call 83.
Okay.
And trying to get assistance, and we've actually utilized them from the sheriff's office to be able to get them to come out and assist us with calls for service. But I'll have to look into that. You said 988?
988, somebody told me, was the emergency for mental health for suicide. And also, my son was one of the ones whose cars got stolen from in front of our house, 6535 Claremont. It was one of those old Honda Preludes. That was a few months ago. Yeah, a few months ago. It was really sad because the second time it's been stolen. Once it was stolen from the Berkeley BART station, stripped and dumped in South Richmond. This time it was stripped and dumped in Oakland, and it was totaled. So that was sad for him. He's now looking for a new car.
Yeah, that's a shame, and I'm sorry to hear that.
And he had a club on the steering wheel too, a
Yeah.
locked club. So
Yeah,
I guess they want it for parts, because Honda Preludes are hard to find parts for.
Yeah, and those are those are nice cars and collected in
Yeah.
and the others, we see that too with some of the vehicle parts. For instance, Toyota Prius has been getting targeted for catalytic converters, Toyota 4Runners, the same.
Yeah.
And a lot of it just has to do with the materials that the manufacturers are using. They just either easier for them to mine them out or more value to them. So, but I'm sorry to hear that.
Yep.
Yeah. You want to just touch briefly on Adams Junior High on Thanksgiving? My daughter was coming over for dinner and said the sheriff is all over the junior high.
Yeah, so Adams Middle School, we got prior to Thanksgiving, we had conducted SWAT training out there, and I want to say it was in September. I could be wrong on that. And so we had utilized the school, and in making the arrangements for our training day with the SWAT team out there, I had contacted the school district and then also the security that patrols it. And one of the things they had asked was, hey, when you guys go through here, if you can just clear the entire building and look for any points of entry where it appears as though people have been forcing it open and trespassing. And they had informed me that they were looking at welding the lower level doors shut and secure, because they had been having such an issue with folks trespassing and then also burglarizing, going in and stealing some of the copper pipes and some of the wiring. So we went ahead and did that. We didn't find anybody in there at that time. But on the Thanksgiving Day, we received a call, and it was multiple activation points. And as you guys know, it's a pretty big campus. So just due to the size and due to the fact that there was multiple activation points and not just a single one, we had multiple deputies on scene to be able to clear it safely. And they didn't find anybody, didn't find any evidence of any new signs of forced entry or anything like that. But yeah, I definitely understand the scare, when you see that many police officers in one area. So I appreciate you reaching out to me, so that way we can put it out there as to what was actually taking place.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Anyone in the committee have any questions? Anyone present? Okay, Mark, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you guys.
Okay. I want to recognize Hari Lamba is with us. And we lost Jin Wei, but we still have a quorum. So thank you, Hari. And we I don't see anyone from Contra Costa County Fire or Highway Patrol. So then, Edgar, let's go back to you on any county issues.
Yeah, so a quick update. As everyone knows, this Saturday is the East Richmond Heights Dumpster Day. It's going to be from 8 to noon or earlier, depending whether the dumpsters get filled up. And I know that the also Browning one the dumpsters were filled up within a couple of hours. Actually, it was within 2 hours. So that ended pretty quick. And this is a part of an initiative. I think I might have mentioned in the last meeting of a way to keep the community cleaner. We're working with the ad hoc committee, the county's illegal dumping ad hoc committee, to strategize on creating more dumpster days and creating a more holistic approach of addressing the cleanup efforts in our community. And one of those, aside from enforcement, is just providing more opportunities for people to dump trash. So we're hosting our dumpster day this Saturday for the community of East Richmond Heights. We're going to be checking folks' streets to see if they are within the community, and if there's something that's obvious that they're not there, then we're going to have to turn them away. But I think I've shared the flyer with folks, so everyone really kind of knows that, the time and the place is going to be at the Adams Middle School parking lot, and it's going to be gated, so folks can dump it after hours, or hopefully they won't dump it after hours. And so that's one of the big items we're working on, and I think that's a good point to kind of transition to what we're looking at next year, which is creating a plan of dumpster days for East Richmond Heights and our other unincorporated communities, as well as being more informative with the community of what you can dump. I don't know if you folks know this, but every resident is entitled to a sidewalk cleanup, or where residents can bring out trash, and then Republic Services comes and picks it up. I think they're entitled to 2 per year. So just let folks know of what they're entitled to just try to keep the community clean. Let's see. We're also working on a new running, and this is going to be based in Richmond. We're going to be using the Richmond MLK Park. We're thinking about doing this new program called Richmond Runs, where John is going to invite someone from the Health Services Department to talk about the benefits of exercising 30 to an hour. And then we'll have like a community run, also bring out, I think, First 5, just to kind of create this environment of, the benefits of spending this time as well with your family and the mental health benefits of that. So that's a project that we're thinking about kicking off next year, hopefully in January, if not February. Let's see. If you folks don't know, next year, John is going to be sworn in as the chair of the Board of Supervisors. So he's going to be the new chair. And there's going to be a sworn in ceremony. I believe it's in January. I'll get more information on that. I believe it's on the 10th. But let me circle back and share that information with the group. And I'm also working on the MLK Day event for the county, which is on the 17th of January. We're looking at locking in a keynote speaker. We don't have confirmation yet, but it looks like it'll be California State Superintendent Tony Thurmond to come and speak and talk about, just talk about the legacy of MLK and the theme of MLK Day, which is we all belong here. And yeah, I think that's really all I have. Things are kind of dying down here in the office with the holiday season. And we still have COVID tests if you folks need them, because I know the holidays are around and family are coming and people are getting sick. So we have COVID tests here, and the offices are going to be open, from my understanding, throughout the holidays, just not on Christmas Day and New Year's. And then some of those days, we'll have an option to work from here or work from home. But for the most part, we're going to be here up until Christmas Day.
Is John Joya going to have a holiday party like he normally does at his office?
No. I wish, but no. We're having the Verde fundraiser is going to be our kind of holiday party, which is it's a fundraiser for the Verde School in North Richmond. Mm-hmm. And we're taking in donations right now. I think we're close to meeting our goal, and I think that event is going to be virtual. but that's going to be on, let's see, Christmas. Let's see, I'm looking at my calendar. Let's see. No, it's not next week, so that means it's gonna be next week. I'll have to check that, but let's see. That's odd. How come I don't have it in my calendar? All right, I can check and tell you when the Verde information is, but yeah, we're not having a holiday party this year.
Okay.
I think Joanne has raised her hand.
Yes, I have two questions for Edgar, or two comments, or a comment. When you do the announcement for the dumpster days and the things that garbage pickups that residents are entitled to, if you could also add that the street cleaning day each month onto that.
Okay, that's
And-
thank you.
And remind people to not park on the street on that day. Also, do we know anything about the city council District 2 election yet?
Is that the election, the city of Richmond election with Cesar? So yeah, so tomorrow. So if for folks who don't know this, Cesar, I believe Cepeda and Andrew, but had a tie. The county certified the ballots, I believe, today. So that means that tomorrow, the clerk is going to do the lottery. I believe that the lottery is going to be, don't quote me, I want to say it's at 2 p.m., but it's going to be tomorrow.
Okay.
They're going to do the lottery, and essentially following the state law and the ordinance that's on the city ordinance, they're going to put their names in a box, and essentially their clerk is going to pull out an envelope, and it's going to have one of their names, and then that's going to be the next city council member. So that's
And what are the odds of that happening? That just stunned me that they got a tie.
They got a tie. And you know, with that, it's like every count votes, and it makes you think like, man, I should have called one more house. I should have knocked at one more door, and that would have been the tiebreaker. But
Well, there was another one that won by 3 votes.
right, yeah.
So,
Close. Every vote counts. Yeah.
Yeah,
But that is all I have.
quick comment about this. It doesn't matter. It's what it is. I mean, it's a free dump, but there are things I have seen in other neighborhood groups, and they're not accepting this time. And it looks to me like what they're going to accept is trash, garbage, or what can be green recycling. They're not going to be taking metal. I mean, well, electronics, I guess no TVs, which they accepted when they did the East Richmond neighborhood group. And so I understand why they're doing what they're doing, but they're discounting a lot that I just have a feeling a lot of neighbors are going to show up with that they want to get rid of, and they're not going to take it. I mean, I have some metal car parts that I want to get rid of, and I don't think I can take it. It doesn't say that, but it's a little more restrictive to your, brown or black garbage can and your green garbage can, and then, but nothing really that would go in the blue will be accepted this time. So,
well, maybe if we have more of these regularly scheduled, there could be some alternate, what we accepted each of them alternating.
and what I do is I personally use the El Cerrito Recycling Center because you can take so much there. But anyway,
No, we have a flyer that I'm trying to find in my office. I have it somewhere around here that says like, where places can go dump for recycling and hazardous material. And the plan is to hand those out whenever people come on Saturday and they have things that they can't dump. But ideally, moving forward, we want to get hazardous dumpsters as well as recycling dumpsters. And I don't think we need I don't think we need a green dumpster. But I know the 2 items that the El Sobrano community was really advocating for was a hazardous material dumpster and a metal recycling dumpster. And I think that if there's anything that will probably do the most damage if it's dumped, it's a hazardous material. So I think if we are able to at least get some of those, that would be ideal. Or if we can work with a different agency who provides, you know, hazardous material dumping at some of these events. So it's definitely on our radar, and I think, you know, that's part of the conversations that John is going to have, because John is actually working on getting a new contract with Republic Services, and this is going to increase the allotment that we have of dumpsters every year. And I imagine that's also going to include the diversity of what kind of dumpsters we get.
Okay. All right, Edgar, thank you for that. I'm going to move on to discussion items. And Hari, would you like to make a motion? This is when you had some topics we were going to discuss. We can put them in here, but we need a motion in a second.
Sure. Put a motion for, I guess there were like 3 items that I guess I had said. I can briefly mention that. If there's interest, we can proceed.
Sure, I second that.
Okay, very good. Hari, the floor is yours.
Okay.
I have your email here too, by the way. So
thank you. Thank you. Thanks for you giving me the opportunity to speak about that. I think that my first item was in regard to disaster preparedness. As we might know, East Richmond Heights is the Hayward Fault runs right through it, and that, and then we are right adjacent to the Wildcat Canyon Regional Park, which during the summer is can be a possible wildfire area. But I just thought that I know that Richmond has an emergency response program, and I just thought it might be helpful to have a certain amount of disaster preparedness in the East Richmond Heights area. When I moved as 5 years back, I sorry, I had an issue regarding my granddaughter's items. The particular I held a meeting in June of 2018, and then we organized the neighborhood, and I, being certified, became like the disaster preparedness coordinator, and we had published the command post as being the location just outside the Gyuto Foundation, which is the Buddhist monastery. And we did have some radio drills also. I'm just saying this, that I think it'd be helpful if there would be, say, like a meeting, and I'm sure Gyuto Foundation might be again open to that, is to have organize the different neighborhoods so that everybody knows that there's one person who is going to be like the coordinator for that area, and for them to decide. For example, if there is an earthquake, I had told everybody that if your phones are not working and there's an earthquake, and just show up at the command post outside the Gyuto Foundation, and we'll organize from there to do all the things that certified folks typically do. You know, helping neighbors, turning off gas valves, doing medical triage, and so forth. Anyways, that was one aspect of things. I don't know to what extent, Edgar, yourself, maybe this is an issue that could be discussed with John, as to whether a better disaster preparedness, and also some level of education for creating fire defensible spaces. Again, I organized a dozen neighbors on my line, since my backyard fence is the Wildcat Canyon Regional Park, you know, for creating fire defensible spaces and making people aware as to the different levels of wildfire evacuation orders, evacuation warning, evacuation order, and so forth. And some people felt like they were not connected that well. And so we had organized a text string saying that in case um, an evacuation order is giving, we'll try and knock on as many neighbors' doors as possible. And of course, let people know that they should keep a bag next to the door should an evacuation order come in order to evacuate. So hopefully these things don't happen. I hope and pray they don't happen. But it's always good. And I think it's a very good mechanism to get to know your neighbors. I made a lot of friends out of neighbors because of that. And I know many of the people in the neighborhood. So one is disaster preparedness. So that's one issue. If you want, I can move to the second one. Second one is basically reducing our carbon footprint. And when I was with the El Cerrito Democratic Club, we organized an educational thing. And an offshoot of that was just educating. People don't know how much money they can save, actual money they can save by having solar panels.
Mhm.
It's about a 10 to 15% rate of return,
Mhm.
which investment you do. Say you put $10,000 investment, which investment which you put in a bank would give you, let's see, it's 30% federal tax credit. Which investment would give you $3,000 back the very first year and $1,000 back every year thereafter for what you would save on your electric bill? So how much you would save on your solar panels, how much money you would save with energy efficiency, the big bucks you would even save, and this is becoming a really interesting topic for me because I'm into the green hydrogen economy. These fuel cell cars are a secret that's waiting to be told. You could get a $20,000, you could get a used Toyota Mirai. They'll give you $15,000 worth of a debit card for free fuel for hydrogen. There's going to be a hydrogen refueling station in El Cerrito opening soon. There's one in Emeryville, one in Berkeley. It's the next thing on zero emission cars. So and energy efficiency appliances. I mean, you just spend a few $100 extra for the energy efficient appliance. When you walk into a store, please ask for energy efficient appliances. Insist that you must have the most energy efficient stuff. In the El Cerrito area, I had tried to convince our council to say that all new developments should be the most energy efficient because those buildings are going to be there for 30 years. And if they are natural gas guzzling buildings, they're going to be, consuming that much more gas and electricity for the next 30 years. And anyway, so that's the second issue. And it can be like an educational, I had prepared a 7-page educational package that I had shared on social media a little bit, but that's something I can, if Edgar, you think that's a good idea, that's something we can just post on your website, and make people aware of it so that people can know, the process of getting solar panels is actually really easy. And I had solar panels on my home. That's the first thing I did is get those panels besides changing my LED bulbs to LED light bulbs. I got them in 2018 and I've spent $8,500. I got $2,500 back the first year and I've saved $1,000 a month since. So it's a good deal. I mean, I would recommend it highly it's a no-brainer. Just do it. And it's people, balk at the expense they put out initially, but if you have $10,000 to $15,000, you're thinking of putting it into a CD for now you're going to get 4.5%. You're going to get 10 to 15% with the solar panels. And plus you'll be doing something good for the planet. Anyway, so that's item number 2.
Oh, can I make a comment on that?
Sure.
I was just thinking, you know, those are all big ticket items, but in addition to educating people on those, there are so many small items just around your house. Next time you buy carpeting, linoleum, to buy green, sustainable products. And
Yep.
those are things people replace often, and they're not even aware that there are options out there to buy something that is more sustainable in the marketplace. I mean, last time I went and asked for green carpeting to a carpet place in Richmond, they would start showing me green carpets. So, so, you know, I
Yeah,
think
color everything green.
in addition, I think if we do any education on that, to get to the smaller things too, that people can approach more often or daily, and can make a small difference, but you don't have to think of the big items. I mean, you should do the big items, but to think of the smaller ones too is helpful.
Yeah, and there's one thing, I have a text string on Bonhart Avenue of about 30 of our friends, and a really nice text string. But anyway, there's one small item that you can do that will save big time in terms of energy emissions, and that is don't throw your food waste in the regular garbage.
Mm.
You must put your food waste in bio bags, which you can get at Costco and or order online, and put them in your green bin. The methane that your food waste generates in regular landfills, methane is 20 to 80 times more powerful a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide.
Mm.
And please, 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 if we can get the word out, I'm thinking of each time I walk into a restaurant that they should give them a pamphlet. Trader Joe's is the only one people who do it. They have, you know, they have this kind of things, and you walk into the restroom and they have the paper napkins that you use are going into a green garbage can, and they tell you, please don't put other waste. And you can take those paper towels that you use any place, and those are compostable too. And we have enormous amounts, all our restaurants use enormous amounts of paper towels. And we as homeowners, let's just take simple things. You know, I keep a separate can for bio bags, and put your food waste in there, please. And this is, and then make sure that the bio bags you can just, I double bag them so that you don't have fruit flies, and then you just put your yard waste right on top of it, and you never have problems with fruit flies. And that's one little item would be tremendous things for the planet, you know. And just like you said, Joan, I mean, there's small things in everything that we do. The other big thing that I had tried to talk to people is air pollution. Of course, the air pollution folks I interact with complain about wood fire smoke all the time. And wood fire smoke is a very bad pollutant for air quality. We love having our wood place fires, unfortunately. But the other thing that really hurts also with air quality is these the engines our gardeners use that come to our backyard. Leaf blowers, lawnmowers, they don't have any pollution controls. Our cars have nice catalytic converters, right, which people like to steal. Love to steal. But those leaf blowers don't have even the rudimentary forms of pollution control. So, of course, California legislation needs to fund replacing all of those leaf blowers because they create an enormous amount of pollution and carbon emissions. You know, so replacing them with having a program to replace them all with electric engines, the off-road engines are very polluting. And so there's a whole bunch of, I'm sorry, I hope I'm not um, boring you guys with all this, but there's a lot of exciting things that we can do for environment.
Kari, I really appreciate this. I'm a total tree hugger myself, and I put solar on my roof about 10 years ago, and I save a ton of money. And my
Yeah.
father was a hippie. I'm 62, so he would have been in mid 80s now. But you know, even when we brushed our teeth, we turned the water on, got it wet, turn it off, brush, brush, brush. Same thing with the shower. He wasn't even in the military, but to go in, you know, you just get wet and then turn it off and lather, and then so there's so many ways to save.
Yeah,
But,
and we, as soon as we got alerted by EBMUD, and we were, you know, but we have a sprinkler system in our backyard. I went from 15 minutes on the 4 stations to 8 minutes on the 4 stations, and we don't flush as frequently. We
right.
didn't
Mhm.
have water saver toilets. It was an older house as far as the toilets went, although it was constructed new in 2004. But the other aspect, that the last item I had, unless you have questions on any of those, was water harvesting. California is in a drought situation, guys, and the water that comes to us comes from the Sierra Nevadas. And how many times have we turned the television on and they show us a lake that's at 25% of what it needs to be, and that's where our water is coming from.
Mhm.
So sooner or later, we're going to have an emergency. If I walk the East Richmond Heights, I can promise you, Edgar, and all you folks, there's at least 3 locations where I'm seeing water just coming out, going down the street, and going into the storm sewer.
Yeah.
I can show you those locations. And all the nations that suffer from drought and water shortages have mandatory water harvesting. They say, thou shalt harvest your water, and thou shalt reuse it. And what that means is we may need to change the water rights, because I was made aware of the fact that anyone who's downstream has some rights to the water, but I can't see what rights they would be. So if we can have some ponds at the bottom of the hill that create some ponds and they become marshes, maybe somebody can use them for, watering their lawns. When we get these heavy rains, they would really fill up, and we could reuse some of that water. It might mean changing some of the laws regarding water rights, but you can have a marsh. And the other thing that's happening is that another thing that would help with is sea level rise. With sea level rise, what's happening is with the slope, salt water is now intruding and it's going to be coming underneath us. And so if we have freshwater ponds, they will prevent the saltwater intrusion coming from underneath our communities, And we up on the hill maybe don't have to get too affected by that. But I just think, being a tree hugger that I am, Victoria, I think I look at those vast expanses of hills which I can see from the backyard, beautiful. We are so fortunate to have the Wildcat Canyon Regional Park to us. And I dream about having a little string of solar panels and a little water harvesting pond and trees around it. And I'm thinking, oh, wouldn't that help with the energy situation? And maybe the cows can come and drink the water and get a little bit of shade. So being the tree hugger that I am, those are the kinds of things I think about. Again,
I'll call you for a coffee date like we talked about.
Yeah, let's have a coffee date. I think I don't want to bore the rest of you, but those are some of the small things I think that we can do. I think, Edgar, if there is something relating to either disaster preparedness that we can coordinate with CERT Richmond folks to put things. There's also a radio group that transmits from Point Richmond that I was into, and Diane Richwine, who's also in East Richmond Heights, also is a principal coordinator. And every Wednesday evening, they have a transmission so that if there's disasters in the whole area, the guys can talk to each other and certain types of GMRS radios can communicate. So there's the disaster preparedness stuff, there's the energy stuff, which people can save themselves tons of money and do the planet a favor. And number 3 is water harvesting issues. That would take a little bit of organization and some construction, most probably piping and some ponds.
I have a suggestion.
Sure.
You know, Fran, who's at this meeting, and I did a history question and answer board for our art and music festival. And we had a lot of visuals on it. We had the questions and then the answers were separate. And a lot of people stopped and looked and talked. We talked with a lot of people. So I was going to suggest maybe that you come up or somebody, one of us or some group has something that's interactive at the Music and Art Festival around one of these issues, that not just a paper to hand out, because I think it's got to be something that's fun and interactive, like a wheel where you spin and you get some answers, or you win some little, you know, something that draws people to get in there and do something. And if you just picked maybe one issue to talk to focus on, it's such a great opportunity, the Music and Art Festival, to reach out and talk to people. And there's so many people there.
That's a super idea, John. I found that out the hard way. I had a booth for climate change and environment at the El Cerrito Vista Park, along with the Sierra Club, and one close by had some nice boards and had some games, and it wasn't quite content-wise as rich as my booth was, but boy, were they attracting all the people. So I think I'd love to come up with some kind of a whiteboard game or something like that, which people can come and play, and that would make something like this a lot more interesting, you know.
Well, that could be one of our goals for next year. If we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah, you know, I can certainly come up with some fun game which people can play, you know. But I mean, for example, climate change is such a dry subject, but I mean, you can make it pretty interesting too if you can pay some, especially regarding solutions. You know, for me, 1%, I did the calculation, 1% of the world's land area worth of solar panels could generate all the world's energy if I did the calculation for 2017. So it's a no-brainer for me that we could immediately convert to solar plus green hydrogen and be 100 times better off. We'd be rid of gasoline, we'd be rid of diesel. So for me, but that's a dry subject. How do you make it into a game? So solutions can be, you know, things relating to electric cars or solar panels, or, you know, something relating to some fun things, you know, having fun handouts or fun things for coloring competitions for little kids, or you know, something. But something like that might be of interest. But anyway, folks, those are the 3 items I had proposed. And
So Ari, I have just a quick comment on that. I know one of the things you mentioned was the concern with the disaster preparedness and primarily in response to the dangers posed by wildfires. Recently, there was a West Contra Costa County Fire Safe Council that was created. I believe Sohail Bana is I guess the point of contact for that. But they're doing quarterly meetings, and disaster preparedness is one of the ones, or one of the topics they're discussing. And I believe the next meeting is February 7th, if that's something you're interested in.
sure,
And,
sure.
let me see if I can get you a website. So I'll post the website in the chat. And if you guys want to take a look at that, that might be a good starting point as a point of reference for that topic, because I agree with you, where you guys are located, there's several risks posed to your guys' community, and being prepared definitely helps. So I'm sending that over now. It's the West Contra Costa Fire Safe Council, and it's West Contra or WCCFiresafe.org. Next meeting will be February 7th.
Okay, that's great, Mark. Thank you. for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to say, Mark, that you folks do an awesome job. Hats off to you. But you know, I guess the thing they taught us in CERT class is if you have a disaster, if it is a pretty widespread earthquake disaster, it might be 2 or 3 days before you folks can come to help, whether it's yourself or whether it's a fire department or whether it's an ambulance. And so for 2 to 3 days, we ought to be able to take care of our community, maintain a certain level of peace, be able to take care of neighbors, provide medical help, do medical triaging, turn off gas valves if a house is on fire because, it doesn't have one of those red automatic earthquake shutoff valves. So it's just, and I think it's a good education. And what it does is when things do happen, you are mentally prepared for it. And when you're mentally prepared for it, it doesn't matter if it's pretty big, it's just a question, okay, what do I have to do? What do I have to do first? Take care of myself, take care of my neighbors. That's the kind of attitude you develop. And like I said, it's a great way to get to know your neighbors and become friends with them.
Absolutely.
And Hari, a lot of people I know are switching over their wood burning fireplaces into the gas starting. I'm about to put one in my house. I have a 1948 house and never had a fireplace. I've always wanted one. I figure I'm 62 years old. I deserve a fireplace. So I'm going to put in one of those zero clearance ones on my north wall, and that'll be gas starting.
Good
Yep.
for you, Victoria. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I switched mine out to electric many years ago. And there were a couple of reasons for that. The way the wind blows right up here at Arlington and Olive, it would blow the smoke right down into our house, no matter what we tried to do to target it. So I have an electric, and it's a heater as well. In mine.
I just need solar.
And you can get these, and you can get these ones, John, that I think are electric, but they have the visual, just like it makes it look like the real fire.
That's
Right.
exactly what I have. And yeah. So anyway, Hari, thank you very much. I know
Okay.
that's quite a bit to digest, but he had itemized these, and I'm glad that we had the time to go through that. So I'd like to move on to our subcommittee reports. Joanne.
We did not review any variance or requests from the county during this last period.
Okay, that last one though that we had talked about, did that one go through okay? That one was taken care of? It was around.
Yes. I don't know where, I didn't follow up where it went with the county, but we did have the meeting, and we ended up, actually, they were within all of the standard zoning requirements for what they were doing. I think it was just a review, maybe because it was a small lot, perhaps.
Yeah.
And there was one neighbor contesting it. But I think Jinwei and I, who are on the committee, found some, that we supported it with facts, that it met everything, and it was a reasonable approach to what they were trying to do within the zoning regulations, and
Yeah.
sent that information out we summarized and sent that out to the planner. And I don't
Okay.
know what's happened since then.
I got an email from the planner that there was going to be a public hearing after we approved it, and then it got approved, and then they sent me a notification of a public hearing. I don't know what was the result of that public hearing, because I think they had one in the past for the same project, and then the owner didn't show up. So I know there was a public hearing, and then that was an opportunity for the neighbor to speak up, because I know she was very very passionate about not having that project. But in terms of the MAC did provide a recommendation to approve, and I explained to her why I think that the subcommittee explained it, that it's just one portion of the whole approval process, and she would have the opportunity to speak up. And they did have that public hearing. I have to check and see if there was any outcome from that, but that was the last step I heard from it.
Well, interestingly enough, that was the second time we reviewed that on the subcommittee. And quite frankly, I thought it was a new project. They had changed it so much to fit in. And the first time it went by, we had a lot of, the subcommittee did have several recommendations to modify what they were proposing. And they came back and redesigned, and it was so much more, a better contextual fit with the neighborhood. So I'm glad with what the subcommittee thing seems to be working.
Okay. All right, thank you. The next one, we've got agenda items, speakers. I know we spoke about looking to see that we don't have conflicts with other meetings coming up next year. Is there anything else anybody wants to bring up right now?
I would like to bring up, we don't have our minutes, but at our last meeting, Supervisor Joya asked us to give him recommendations on, I have a list here from the last meeting, about 5 or 6 things. And since it wasn't on the agenda, we didn't do that today, but if it's still within the timelines for all of these recommendations to Supervisor Joya, we should have that on our next agenda. And I have a list here. One is about the commercial sites in our neighborhood, whether to change those to mixed use, to reduce them or keep them as they are or expand them. The other one is the issue of views and the tree ordinance and reviewing the Kensington ordinance. And the other is looking at the 2040 plan, looking at their policies, guidelines, and actions, and their ACUs to see if we have anything to recommend or modify. And the last one was coming up with policy language regarding the dog park area.
Yeah, actually, you named everything I wrote down too. I had preserved Mira Vista land for the dog park.
Okay.
So
Yep.
we could,
Those with me, both of those groups of recommendations. I'll share those with John. And I think that would have to do with the general plan, right? Was like, what do we want to see in the general plan since it's still being amended? So
Yes.
if you can.
Well, there were most of them are about the general plan, but then the issues of the tree ordinance and the views is separate. So because I think Supervisor Joya wants to use the same ordinance to move that forward, and he wanted us to review it.
Okay.
yeah, and I
Thank you so much.
also received information on the Kensington tree ordinance and received a bunch of stuff from a neighbor up there who at one time had called for us to meet at John's office, but then that was before COVID and it sort of just dissolved. But and now, of course, I can't find the paper with the guy's name, but someone who was very active with the Kensington tree ordinance. Yeah, I don't have it here in front of me now, but I guess Edgar, if you want to just compile those notes, and because the topics are the same, and I did look at the Kensington tree ordinance, and I liked what they were working on it. They were reviewing it before COVID hit to make some other changes, and I don't think they did anything. Yeah, policies, actions, principles, and preserve Mira Vista land was, I made a big note about, because I know that that's a concern to many people that live up here. So not sure what the right roadmap is to do that going forward, but we need to keep that stuff on our list.
Well, I think if we put it on the agenda and itemize it, we will have people coming, because it arose from people who were at that meeting talking about how to put language into the 2040 plan appropriately that would be a goal some sort of direction to save that land for the dog park.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree with Joanne. I think a good way moving forward would be, of course, sharing those recommendations, but also making them discussion items for future meetings for the group and the community can talk about. For example, what does the difference between the tree ordinance from Kensington and the one we're looking at, get feedback from the community, whether that's exactly what we want, or maybe we want something else. Same thing with the review recommendations. I think that'll create a more fruitful discussion on what we want to see in the community. So those are kind of my 2 cents on how we can move forward with those.
I think, John, if you have the name of that person, or if we know of the person or who is working on it in Kensington, it would certainly be worthwhile to meet with that person to see what were the issues they wanted to change about the ordinance. And I would be happy to do that with you or.
Yeah, I just found it. Okay, so it's Michael Rossi, Rossi. And he was talking to Kate Roush at the time. It looks like it was February 2021. And he wrote to me and said, we've already done a lot of stuff here. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. So,
Right.
But that's who it is. And he had meeting. We were going to meet with John at the time, and then with COVID, that was the end of this thing. But I've got that, and that's who the contact is, Edgar. And if you should have his phone number. He's with Rossi Expositions. He's on Collins Avenue in Richmond, where his business is. And so anyway, I still have all this stuff. Okay, I'd like to move to a regional historical presentation, which kind of got pushed off the page, and I'm glad because I have a little bit of extra time. As I was putting this together, I ended up with even more extremely rare video of what happened. And my initial presentation about the Nike missile base is stunning enough with the pictures and the history. And of course, I got to go play in them when I was a teenager. But then there was a situation when the Indians were taken off of Alcatraz by the government. They moved up there. And I found a lot of it's called B-roll. B-roll with film and TV companies is where they just let the camera roll. So they capture a lot of stuff, and then they use pieces out of that to edit a story that they present. Well, I've got B-roll from KPIX and also KQED. The Indians, when they moved up there, when they first went in and took over the Nike missile base. And then I found quite a bit of interviews with them inside of the old homes that were occupied by the military when they lived out there. And this stuff is, of course, long forgotten and gone, but I was trying to edit it just for my presentation about the Nike missile base. And I realized there's a whole nother piece of this that needs to be told. And that is what happened with the American Indians when they were out there. And it's just astonishing. I think because it's B-roll footage and it's also in the public domain, that I would probably like to put all of it together with my Alcatraz B-roll and then the Nike missile base. And I may just put that whole section on my YouTube channel. So, but for my presentation, that's the one little part I hadn't gotten to. I wanted to edit, and I was going to do it on the 15th, but then we moved this up to now. So I will do that presentation for our next meeting.
Well, John, we've been trying to keep them 15 minutes or less. Do you think you have 2 presentations? Certainly.
No, well, I'll make it one.
Okay.
I'll one and keep it within that time, but then I'll have another piece that goes to it, and by then I can put it on my YouTube channel. I just want to verify that what I've got is public domain, and of course I'll give Channel 9 and Channel 5 all the credit because it's their film, but it's showing up now. I'm finding this stuff And there really is, it's an amazing story, just the pictures of the missiles. I got pictures of the missiles standing up, ready to be launched right behind my house here in the canyon. So I will do that for our next meeting. And so that'll cover that.
Thank you.
I'd like to go to announcements. We talked about the dumpster day at Adams. We have one alternative seat, and we need to have someone contact Edgar about that. I had put in here before, and I don't think we've got any news because Edgar, I didn't hear from you, but the Kensington Avenue path being fenced off. Did you get any feedback yet? I guess I could present here real quickly for those of you who are still here. Edgar and I met with someone from Public Works, and it turned out that was not the person to talk to about this.
Mm.
And he told us, he says, this isn't in our purview. So
Hmm.
Edgar, did you get anybody yet with what is it, code enforcement? And
Yes, I did. So, I mean, it took a while for me to get a response, to be quite honest. I followed up with, I think it was Jim, the old surveyor for the county who's now retired. And
oh, he's retired now too.
he's retired and being contracted at the same time. So
Okay.
he's still working in the county, but he's not the surveyor anymore. And in the meeting that I had with John, the county had told me before that meeting was that because they had no property rights to the land, they couldn't open up a pathway, and they couldn't open up a road either, because they would, or a concrete pathway, walkway, because it would have to be ADA compliant, and they would have, in order for any of that to even begin, they would need to buy the property rights for the land. And that would open a whole can of worms that they didn't think that the county would make any effort to do. So that was the understanding I had before I met with John. When we met with John, John had mentioned that he had spoken to the surveyor a while ago. It was like 2019, maybe, John, or whenever it was. And the surveyor said that in his opinion, the fence should be brought down, and it should be created, I guess, because it's a hazard, so it should be brought down. But from my understanding, that was the main point from that conversation. So when we left with Public Works said, well, if that's the case, maybe we should explore this further. And I said, okay, if that's the case, I kind of wish you would have told me that before the meeting, but if that's the case, okay. And the actions, I guess what was supposed to happen after that meeting was that I was going to follow up with the surveyor and get clarification on that conversation of why it should be brought down and what needs to happen in order for that to kind of move forward. So I spoke with, let's see, I'm trying to find the exact email. And I want to have the email, so give me a second if I can at least share it with you folks.
Who owns the land?
So
Huh, pardon me?
it's Contra Costa County property. It does not,
Why would they have to buy it? I mean,
they wouldn't have to buy it.
Yeah.
All they need to do is the person who fenced it off and took the size of a street for their backyard.
right.
That's what they did. And they also blocked all over 100 homes in the back part of the dead end streets there. If we have a disaster up here and you can't go down your street, there's no other way to get through. And this is a person who fenced it off, sold the house, and is gone. And the new owners don't know,
But it's not theirs.
Ooh.
And we
That sounds like litigation right there.
we've talked about this for over 2 years, and I know
Yeah.
through COVID,
What about the fire department? Couldn't they require, since it's a hazard?
I went over this with the fire chief, and he initially thought that it was a road, and I later said no. And he said, well, you want us to rebuild the road? No, you have a fence that a person has taken for their backyard, and they fenced it off, and it's been a path for decades where people can come and go either direction. The fence needs to come down and just leave the path the way it was. That's what my point and several other neighbors have said.
Because we have all those pathways through Berkeley and El Cerrito that are not ADA accessible or say, meet all the requirements.
It's the same thing.
Right.
So I have the email, I have the last email I got from Jim Steen, which is the retired county surveyor.
Yeah.
I'm happy I found it because I think this is the last correspondence I got, and it gives some guidance, and I think it's good that I read it just so we can all be on the same page. So he said, Edgar, the Kensington Avenue has never been accepted as a county road by the Board of Supervisors. Therefore, neither Public Works nor court enforcement has authority to remove the fence or other encroachments placed by the adjoining property owners. The Board of Supervisors could accept a portion of the map road for constructing a trail if so desired. Trail, so that's key, because that's key. It's something I want to flag, that it seems that a trail could be may be feasible, and I think the reason why that's key is because that removes the ADA compliant hurdle, as well as like paving and all that, right? So could accept a portion of the map road for constructing a trail if so desired. However, the southern end of the road was previously vacant, and new access rights would have to be purchased or condemned from one or more owners. I concur with Munish's thoughts on the email below concerning the feasibility of a pathway. And I think I sent you that email, John, just how when Munish outlined that just creating a pathway is unfeasible for ADAD and requiring property rights and all that. For further questions about the county's legal options, you should consider addressing the county council. So I think, so that's the last correspondence I got. And I think if removing, let's see, the board, so that's the question, right? Can we remove the fence? The county cannot, neither Public Works nor Converse has authority to remove the fence. Okay.
So that means essentially anyone, because it's been allowed here, can go fence off property that they don't own and add it to their backyard. And it's the size of a street. It is the width of Kensington Avenue.
I think
that, and nobody can stop you. I mean, it's perfectly legal. If you go on the county assessor's map, you will see that all of that property does not belong to that house, that parcel. In fact, as a matter of fact, on many street maps, including PG&E's and others, it still shows Kensington Avenue as a street that goes all the way through to Arlington. Prior to talking about it, really.
I know.
I would love for the county
John,
to make a decision.
you need to write some language and propose it for the 2040 plan as a goal, and put it in the 2040 plan as a fire hazard. I can't believe the fire department can't do anything about this. Write something up, and if we're going to look at this at our next meeting, let's have something written up to put into the what do they call, the guidelines and actions of the 2040 plan, and call it to the attention of the general plan.
I think I agree with Joanne. I also would like to see it as an agenda item where we can invite whoever we need from the county. Maybe John can be in this meeting, and I think whether it's feasible or not, there'll be an outcome in that meeting. And I think if there's public concern of, if there's neighbors who really want it open, I think that's going to get a lot of traction if we have it in the agenda.
We've tried to keep this very reasonable within the MAC, since we talked about it when the fence first went up in June 22 years ago, because I know there are neighbors up here that are probably going to get outraged, and they're going to raise hell when they find out that, I mean, this was an escape route. Sure, it was a path that you could go through for a variety of reasons. That was a path that all the people who live on the dead end streets back here, right behind me, those people in the, you used to be able to walk through there, go down Claremont by Victoria's,
Yeah.
take a left and go through that El Cerrito path that is maintained and clear.
Right.
At the end of La Honda, you would get on the bus and take the bus down to Bart or over to Berkeley or wherever you, because that's
Mhm.
the bus stop is. I used to come flying back into Oakland. I'd take the bus up there and I can't take my suitcase and I go right up La Honda through that path.
Mhm.
Path is tied to, in relation to that path, because that's the way you would go. And then I'd go down Arlington. You know, people who live back there used to be able to do it. Now, maybe in today's day and age, nobody is doing it anymore. Well, of course you can't get through it. But anyway, so, you know, I just think we need a decision from the county. Yeah, we're going to give them that property. I mean, if that's the case, they should be paying the full assessment.
Mhm.
But, you know, the fact that you could take the size of a street and fence it off and put it on your property and then sell the house and make a sale. And you can go on the assessor's map and you can see that's not a part of that house.
Yeah.
But, you know, and then you go back into 2019 when we got correspondence because the person who was doing work there dumped mounds of junk, completely blocking the path then. And the county, and that was Public Works, told that person, you have to clean that up, and they did. So, I mean, there's just a string of neighborhood information on this thing, and
Hey, I have a question for Victoria. You're in real estate. How could they get the documents to buy that house?
I am really
I mean, the
surprised.
title
because-
papers and
the
everything.
title company issues a preliminary title report, and that gets reviewed. And they should have saw that they were getting a lot more land than it shows for, but I guess they didn't complain. Sellers probably got more money than they should have gotten, and the buyers got more land than they should have gotten. The county assessor's office definitely should know about this.
Yeah, I think I'll defer to you folks. You know, I'm just here to do whatever you folks want to do. But
Well, I think it's a good idea to have a meeting with all of these people, the county, all these people that it's affecting. Fire, the county assessor,
Right.
Planning.
Let's see if we can get them on the meeting.
I mean, if they went to do an addition, they would have a different side yards or front yard or rear yard setback because of that.
Exactly.
okay, so I have in my notes or set a meeting with the county and John to discuss the road. Is that
Well, I think we ought to, we ought to have all the things that it could affect, like the assessors, taxes,
Mhm.
planning and development for doing additions onto the house, how they interpret that.
I can get a copy of the preliminary
Fire.
title report. I can get a copy of the preliminary title report to include in our talk.
I know we can't, I mean, there are two of us, and I'm thinking Victoria, maybe because of, you know, your knowledge and experience, maybe you and I together could, you know, work on this. I scanned everything and I sent it to James when he was there. Edgar's got it now. John has got it.
Can you send it to me? I just need the address so I can order the prelim.
Yeah, but you can see there's a whole timeline. James was very specific. He said, can you give me a timeline so that we know how to deal with this? Okay. And of course, James is gone now for a while, but we've done all of that. It's all digital. I mean, I've got the hard copies, but
Mhm.
I think maybe you and I should get together for whenever this meeting comes up. And
Well, you're geographically desirable.
yeah, well,
You're right around the corner.
yeah, I don't know all of the real estate pieces, you know, of that, and you probably do. So
Okay, we can talk.
okay, all right. Let me go back to my agenda. Okay. Public comment. I don't think we have any public left with us. So
Sorry about that.
there's no public comment. Is there anything else that any of you would like to discuss?
I'd like to know when our next meeting is.
Yeah, we should do that. I'll defer to you folks.
Are we looking at February? Joanne, Victoria, is that okay with you?
Yeah, I leave February 20th for Hawaii for a couple weeks.
Yeah, I won't be here. I can't make a Wednesday in February.
Should we do another day besides Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm flexible.
I'm fine with that. Joanne,
Just pick any
Yes,
other day
sure,
before the
sure.
20th.
Not a Wednesday.
The second Tuesday of the month, I wouldn't be able to do it. That's my Seroptimist.
And that's another committee I'm on also. So what about the first Tuesday,
I could do the first Tuesday. What's the date on that?
the 7th?
February 7th. I could do February 7th.
Edgar, how does that look on your schedule?
I think, so would it be the first Tuesday of every month?
No,
No, okay.
well,
See,
we'd
we're-
probably go back to Wednesdays after February.
So the first.
Or if you want to keep it on the Wednesday, I just won't be at that meeting.
Well, I don't mind changing for February and then we can go back to Wednesdays.
So Tuesday, okay, so am I hearing the 7th of February, 6:30, and then after that, we'll do this, the third Wednesday?
That's fine
That
with
work
me.
for you guys? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then in the meantime, I'll talk to Joanna Pace about if she is able to give me that list about other conflicts. And then we can, I guess, finalize that at the next meeting, what our meeting schedule will be. But tentatively, do you guys want to stay with Wednesday?
I do.
I'm fine with it, except for I have the conflict in February.
Oh, okay. And I'm wide open for the next 6 years, so I'm gonna go with what.
So February 7th and then the third Wednesday from then on. Is it going to be monthly or every other month?
Every other month.
Okay.
February, March, April. So should
You
we
know,
do May or June?
Edgar, on those items that we're going to put on for discussion, could you outline it that that the goal is to make a recommendation to John, so we just don't discuss them and not come up with any recommendation?
Yes, so and we're talking about, yes, so I have them under recommendations for the general plan, tree ordinance, view recommendation, and recommendation to preserve or move forward with the Mary Vista land.
And also the mixed use development, how to approach that,
Okay,
the commercial development.
Yeah. Okay, I was just gonna say, now Mira Vista, that parkland, the dog park, is owned by the school district, I believe. So
It is.
I'm not sure, who do we need to talk to there?
Well, I think what we were heading towards at the last meeting, if you have a recording, you'll see it, Edgar, is to put something in there that if it does come for sale, that there's somehow that people look at the potential to keep a portion of it as the dog park. I mean, we're not making a recommendation to say change it and keep it always. I think it's just a potential. So it's a goal. It's not that we're changing any land use or anything, but it's just a goal that we're looking to attain.
And it's very valuable in our community because a lot of people go there and it really connects the community.
We've got friends of Mira Vista Park. We call it a dog park, but it's also a park for just walking through and enjoying. And there are several people there that maintain that. They are out there working,
Right.
planting
Right.
and cleaning all the time. So, that particular group, I'm not sure if it's Friends of Mira Vista Park.
But I think they're the ones that were coming up with the language last time.
Yeah, I think,
So if it's on the agenda, I can't imagine, but they won't be there.
Well, we should invite them.
Yeah, and
okay,
we should invite them to make the recommendations of the language they would like included in the
Mhm.
2040 plan so that we can, as the MAC, maybe vote on that or make a recommendation to Supervisor Joya.
Okay, and what's the name of this group? I'm sorry. I was writing.
Friend.
down the dates.
I think it's
I-
Friends.
I think it's Friends of Mira Vista Park.
Okay.
And I know there's another Mira Vista Park way down the hill, so that's not the right terminology, but I'll take a walk through there and look, because I know they've got a big signboard in there that's posted with some people, and as you walk in, I think there's always notes about, please clean up your dog, don't let them jump on people, that kind of stuff. And
Right.
I want to say Nell Benningshoff, I think, is one of the key people there. I've used to see her when I would go to the East Richmond Neighborhood Council.
There's a woman who has a whole presentation, like an audio-visual presentation on how they take care of the park and
Mm,
what they do. I can't think of her name. I'm sure, I'll try and think of her name, but she's in that group and she showed it to me. I'll have to look back at my notes.
Is it Natalie?
No.
Wasn't Natalie? No.
Okay.
I'll go down, Edgar, and see if I can find some context. There may even be a thing in the signboard at Arlington Market. So, okay,
Okay.
I'll see what I can find on that.
And the dates that I have for the meetings, just for we can have it, for you folks to kind of know, is I have the 7th of February, which is the
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
And then I have we're kind of doing every quarter again. So I have May, which is going to be the third Wednesday of the month. I have
No, it's
August,
it's April.
April.
If we're meeting in February, it would be April the 3rd Wednesday.
February. Okay, February, April. So then we have June.
And June, yeah. Do you have any, you don't have any county meetings that day? Like,
No, I don't have anything on my calendar. No.
okay,
Okay.
Third, 1, 2. Let's see. 1, 2.
August,
nope. And then August.
October, and December.
All right.
That's everything.
Ooh, December 20th. That's not going to be too easy.
We'll have to change that one as well.
okay.
Well, that's good. I think that's good for now.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, we'll
I
adjourn.
think that was a very productive meeting, I have to say. We hit a lot of topics.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, John, well, we'll talk about that spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to you. First I'll email you. So you.
Yeah.
the
Well,
same-
that's good. I just made
County
room. I
has.
can accept your email now.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, take care.
All right. Thank you all. And, have a great rest of this month. It's going to be fun.
Oh, and can you send us